Hello! Before we get into the video proper, I have to issue a PSA in the name of transparency. The video was recorded before the big update was released, the Helldivers 2 patch. However, I think independent of what the update contains, the opinions and information espoused in this video are still relevant, even though they are not entirely up to date, although judging by the fact that even after the patch people have still reported their PCs hard locking, I think what I'm about to say in the video is still valid. But yes, in the name of full transparency, the recording was done before the newest Helldivers patch was deployed. That's all I wanted to say. Now we can get into the video proper. Greetings! Another day, another Helldivers 2 controversy. This time around, it seems to be on a grander scale though than some of the other oopsies that the studio did. We are almost reaching PSN drama levels currently. What are we thinking? Are we on DEFCON 1 drama levels yet? I don't think it's as bad as the PSN drama was. PSN drama was definitely bigger, but that wasn't really Arrowhead's fault and also had a very positive outcome in the end. This time around, seems like the house is burning, and again, this time it's Arrowhead that kind of blew up the kitchen. From creator drama to Reddit censorship to Discord shenanigans, which shouldn't be anything new, but it seems like it's really picking up some speed. You should not be surprised anymore at this point that it's gotten this bad, and I'm gonna lay out to you why. It just feels like yesterday, in fact I think it's about just a few weeks ago, that I talked about Arrowhead's weird tendencies almost as a side jab in one of my videos, because let me tell you, I personally think, that studio was always weird like that, and now it just seems to have bubbled to the surface, so to say. But it was always there. This behavior was always present. In short, I like the game personally, yep, but I was always convinced Arrowhead as a studio was squandering all the potential from the get-go. And their balancing decisions have really shown me that despite the 60-day plan, they might have listened to community feedback back then, but if they did, they have not internalized the lessons learned from these 60 days, since they clearly reverted to their old ways, which I think is what they wanted to do with this game all the time, or they just outright ignored it. All of the feedback, all the community's goodwill. The community, the player base itself just constantly stepped on their toes and yanked them onto a different path. As a player of this game, you would argue the right path, but as an Arrowhead dev, who knows? So let's go on a bit of a journey and talk about the many past controversies Arrowhead already was involved in, why I think they never understood their player base or what opportunities they had when they released this game. And it really comes down to the fact that this is a very scrappy dev studio that never really expected the publicity and success they got in the end, and they clearly don't know how to handle the pressure and the large player base that they have garnered. Let's first get into the weird world of the studio's moderation, since I think this is a window into the thought process and ideology clearly represented by the moderation team and some of the devs as well. I will highlight some of the bigger dramas that happened in the past to put things into perspective and not make the video too long. First, we had the absolutely stupid furry drama controversy, where just a piece of fan art was posted in the Helldivers Discord, obviously furry fan art, and inside the corresponding art channel that this was posted in, people responded with a bunch of vomit emojis as an ironic reaction. Let's be honest here, whoever posted this should have basically expected that kind of response. If you see what kind of an audience Helldivers 2 attracted, I don't think it's the furry degen audience, and this is not a furry degen game, so of course that reaction should have been anticipated. And it all ended up in the offending emoji posting users getting banned, and then finally all the emojis being blocked, since in the eyes of the mods, emojis were being used incorrectly and in a rude manner. Here's the problem though. First of all, the code of conduct in question that was offended against never laid out that this was not appropriate behavior. Posting emojis under a piece of art. That was never lined out in the code of conduct that this was something that you shouldn't do. Rules on the art channel, which were specifically fine-tuned again as opposed to the server rules, also those server rules and channel rules, both of them never stated that ironic use of emojis was not permitted. The person who also posted that degenerate piece of furry art, expecting not to garner immediate backlash, even though if you spend a single day on the internet, you should know that posting controversial shit like this is gonna get you some appropriately indecent responses, but instead the mod team, blamed the community for toxicity and slammed down the ban hammer over some quite honestly funny ironic reactions to a piece of art. That is the level of snowflakes we're talking about. And this is just one of many similar situations where slight critique or ironic meme posting in this case was taken as offensive action and rewarded with a ban or some sort of other restrictions. Case in point, the creator Odo getting banned off Discord a while ago for his contributions, aka criticism of the game, which was taken as, again, rude and inappropriate conduct, even though he is one of the most chill content creators out there and has never really issued rude remarks, comments, or called out specific developers or even insulted them. He was simply banned for espousing opinions about the game that were not approved by the heinous moderation team. That's all that happened here. Making the Ministry of Truth proud, by the way. I thought that this was just all ironic shitposting and we were all cosplaying as the bad guys from World War II, and it is all for show to make fun of fascism, but it seems the moderation team for Arrowhead takes the in-game lessons on propaganda and thought suppression very seriously for some reason. Next we can talk about the PSN fiasco, which is more of a Sony problem than anything else. As you know, Helldivers at some point wanted to enforce PSN accounts onto their PC user base, also therefore banning certain countries from playing the game, since PSN is not available in certain countries. What is more important here is the very tone-deaf response early on by a moderator called Spit on the topic, relativizing the issue and pushing the community sentiment off as childish and entitlement. He actually lost his position over that, since it was such a high-profile case that got picked up by news outlets that they couldn't really suppress this anymore. So he lost his job over this, but this guy is just one of the many funny Muppets that Arrowhead employs as their Discord Jannies. There was a very short-lived drama around the developer with the name Alexius, where this developer spouted some pretty dumb nonsense on Discord right after a high-profile nerf of a beloved weapon, which then caused another shitstorm. And while I disagree that you should bash a developer for just kind of saying something stupid like this, and Alexium has done some really good things since then for the community, he's very much shown to be a positive influence, and I wouldn't actually argue that this was an appropriate response. But if you look at what happened here, it's almost like these devs don't know how to properly interface with the community, and maybe should not do so unless they go through an actual community PR channel, or maybe a community PR team should look at what they're posting, and maybe not every single dev needs to interface with the community. But then again, Arrowhead was never really prepared for such a high-profile success story, and I think if the game wasn't on this level of scrutiny, nothing like this would have ever happened, because it would have never left that small community space of the game and the community, the small gaming community itself. But since the game is so prolific, even a little bit of drama spreads all over the internet, which it did in this case. You know, maybe that should have served as another lesson to get the community-facing communication down to a T, and maybe doing a little bit of housekeeping in the moderation team, setting up a proper PR channel, setting up proper community interfacing management, and maybe not having every single developer interfacing with the community, potentially spouting nonsense that leads to shitstorms. But then again, I don't think the people responsible at the studio put too much thought into these issues, and they still don't to this day. This is why it continues on to this day. Let's also not forget that providing information on enemy armor and other mechanics that is not visually explained in the game will get you banned on Discord as well. Don't believe me? Here's the proof. Linking of sites such as the Helldivers wiki or the companion app got you banned, since all additional information not presented in the game is considered as leaking data mined information. Hence, why you get banned if you post links to sites containing information about enemy stats and weapon mechanics, etc. On the one hand, I understand the banning of data mined content, but basic game information and mechanics, explanations about these mechanics should not be part of that. It's just taking absolute stickler behavior and being pedantic over it to the nth degree and being absolutely petty when handing out bans. And then the final explanation why it happened wasn't much better to this, because the actual outlined guidelines that prohibited inaccurate or false information from being posted was not pinned anywhere in the Discord threads and in the channels before action was taken against the users. So in short, Discord users got punished for things they did not even know were considered illegal conduct in the Discord because it wasn't officially made clear yet in the rules. The team only posted these rules after the fiasco happened, and the reason was, basically, inaccurate data sources are not to be shared as they can mislead players. That was the long and short of it. The wiki, the companion app, basically were considered potentially inaccurate data sources, containing potentially data mined content. But then again, you look at their Discord and they have a bot that pulls from content creator videos and posts them on the channels as informationals, which contain misinformation. Their very own Discord bots posts content creator videos that contain false information or stupid information. So basic double standards all around. Nobody should be surprised at this at all. This is Discord we are talking about after all, so figures that something like this would happen there. Then there was the stupid LGBTQ cape discussion, which I will not go into needless detail again. Basically, on one hand, the director of the game said they would not like to include these symbolisms in the game to keep an immersion going. And then some mod from the Arrowhead team or someone from Arrowhead stated the opposite and banned people making fun of it and talking about it. So in short, it's just a very dumb and stupid behavior. But since this is such a non-issue that nobody really gives a shit about, I won't get hung up on this since we have to keep going. Let's now slowly move from the past to the present. We can talk about the Reddit now. Famously, some of the developers admitted, and again it's not all of them, some of the developers admitted that they only browse low sodium Helldivers, which is an alternative subreddit that is built around positivity, and that means likely critical thought is unwelcome and is probably gonna get you banned. In short, I assume the moderation is even more draconian than the official Discord and the official Reddit, again making Super Earth propaganda officers proud. In addition to that, users reported over a year ago that their posts got taken down for calling the Helldivers bootlickers. So a bootlicker is considered an offense that gets you auto-moderated, while the terms crydiver or wine diver, basically the people complaining about the complainers, those are not considered as words that do get you punished on Reddit. Again, double standards. Rules for thee and not for me. Spoken like a true Reddit mod. Nobody should be surprised at that. Even on the main Reddit, critical thought is often suppressed or usually countered with an age-old regarded meme. And you all know these memes. You've all seen them. You've all come to know them. It's like the big thumbs up guy or the stop having fun guy. In short, the community is too stupid and too incapable to actually listen to constructive or even negative feedback. Instead, they would just like to blindly and brainlessly enjoy their slowly dying game. Typical normie behavior. And now we even have reports that the term glaze or glaze diver has been banned off of the main Reddit and maybe even in-game, but that's not entirely confirmed yet, I think, as far as I can tell. Anyway, The one-sided moderation and suppression of critical thinking is exactly why I want to make this video, since the Helldivers community sits in the same boat as the Destiny community or the Borderlands community. You might think you're a slick for calling out a game that is currently not popular or declining, or it's currently popular to hate on the game. But should you dare to ever even slightly criticize a game that's currently considered, quote-unquote, as beloved, the NPCs will descend on you and scream you down, even though issuing legitimate grievances should always be permitted. And it is also truly the only way a game can improve, if you take into account that the development team actually takes criticism too hard. That is obviously everything it depends on. I have never heard of a product that has become better by just blindly throwing positive reinforcements at it without ever questioning or criticizing it. That does not lead to improvement. It leads to stagnation. It leads to an insane cult in-group echo chamber. And even if you don't believe this can happen to you, or it's not present in your community, it likely is. Absolutely. Almost every gaming community has this problem. Maybe even you fall under the spell of blindly following the corporation and defending their product from criticism, and you haven't even noticed it. I've seen it many times. On one hand, the same people speaking negatively about the state of one game will then turn around and immediately, without a single thought, blindly defend their other game of choice because they just happen to like that one, while making fun of the people defending the game that is currently okay to hate on. That is the schizophrenic nature of this entire thing. But I think that's just how it works in the gaming industry. True critical thought is insanely rare, and usually these people get screamed at until the pressure builds to such a degree that finally the other people agree that yeah, maybe the critical voices were right after all. But it usually takes a massive downturn in player numbers and quality of the game until this actually happens. At least the people who criticize the game early on can pat themselves on the back knowing they had the right inclination from the get-go, aka Odo for example, in the case of Helldivers. But there's really nothing positive about this mindset, and it's just highlighted once again with Helldivers, who has a community notorious for not wanting to hear criticism and sticking the fingers into a ear and just going la 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 la, no thank you. Now we arrive in the present. After this little excursion, with Helldivers going through it once again. This time due to hilariously bad performance, crashes and outright PC component damage, and then with a spice of content creator drama on top of it. I first have to say this, for the sake of clarity, it is not evident that the anti-cheat is actually damaging components. Let's talk about the anti-cheat though in general. The kernel level anti-cheat, or kernel level anti-cheat in general, is such a shitty waste of time, especially in PvE games. I put them on the same level of trash as de novo DRM and always online in a single player game. They only contribute to system slowdown and worse performance and potential security risks for the people who legally purchase these products. And do they actually stop cheaters? No, of course they do not. Even in Helldivers, circumventing the anti-cheat is piss easy, and doing so will give you a better performing game to boot. Isn't that totally schizophrenic? Thinking about this? You pay money to get an inferior product, and all the hackers turn that shitty program off or bypass it in some way, and they're having an absolute field day, and after Odo's giant PC hardlock and eventually the death of this CPU, that sentiment has become even more pronounced and louder in the community. The anti-cheat needs to go. It is simply not needed in Helldivers especially, and does nothing positive for the performance either. I also find it very ironic that the Helldivers Reddit had to immediately do damage control and make a mod post about misinformation about the anti-cheat. Yeah, it's true that in general, the anti-cheat is likely not a cause for hardware damage directly, but it contributes to unnecessary stress on a system and has been known to cause hard resets or conflicts with other programs or other anti-cheats. And these crashes, if they happen frequently during sessions of recording, for example, can corrupt the system. Leave it up to Reddit to be pedantic about the issue and go, actually it's not the anti-cheat that's doing it. It looks pretty fucking pathetic that this is the only post that's considered important enough to pin in the Reddit while the rest of the community is currently burning. Guys, we have to be pedantic about the anti-cheat issue. It's actually not directly the anti-cheat that's causing game crashes. It's the fact that it's probably conflicting with certain things that's causing resets and crashes. Not the anti-cheat itself, guys. That's misinformation. We gotta do damage control for the big corpos. After all, that again, the Ministry of Truth says so. Let's not forget that Pilestead went to the United Nations and basically said he got millions of players tricked into playing the bad guys from World War II. He basically said he brainwashed an entire community, or he wanted to see if he could brainwash an entire community to be okay with being the bad guys. That was a real classy move, buddy. Maybe think before insulting your entire player base for once. But then again, this guy is so far up in the studio, one of the higher ups in the studio, and he is behaving like this. He's making these honestly quite baffling statements. So we kind of know where the behavior and the shenanigans come from. Higher ranking members of the studio already behave like this. What do you think the lower staff is behaving like? And why do you think these people are still at the company? And why do you think it's still happening to this day? Don't get me wrong, Pilestead has done some really nice things, but he too does not know when to shut up and maybe rethink what comes out of his mouth before talking, because that situation could have been handled differently instead of directly insulting the player base, because that's not going to resonate well with the player base. It's not like 99% of the players were cosplaying to begin with. We kind of know that this is a video game, buddy. You didn't brainwash shit. But perhaps you should look at the conduct of your own studio, because I see some very Ministry of Truth-like behavior there. And I'm not so sure your moderators and your developers are cosplaying their conduct towards the player base. Did you brainwash these guys too with Helldivers? And then finally we arrive what we at today, with numerous content creators quitting, nothing new really, calling out Arrowhead's insane creator program standards, and so on and so forth. One creator in particular, you've probably heard of him, Erwin, made a video pointing out how he was routinely ignored and passed on while not being invited to any event. But at the same time, Arrowhead claimed that they got him on their radar, quote unquote, whatever that means. That's probably not a good thing. Finally, after being a bit more confrontational with his communication, again after being strung on for months on end, he basically got booted from the program and told, nah, you're too rude now we won't include you after all. It's like these guys are actual children, incapable of holding conversations and maybe picking up on a little clue that this is a positive and engaged creator that was actively singled out and barred from attending any events since he did not get a single invitation, and then you string him along with false promises until he gets more direct and a little bit less friendly, and then you instantly take that as a reason, or you pull up some reason why he's now no longer considered for the partner program. And yes, they did that. They pulled up some statement that he made in an old video apparently, and that is what got him off the list now. But, let's just hold him at arm's length, not actually telling him anything. He's totally on our radar, guys, until he gives you the slightest opportunity, the slightest excuse to drop him from the program. And then you did that. That should tell you being partnered with Arrowhead is a very bad idea. You probably don't want that. And then Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear experienced this all on his own, when he was dropped from the program after not wanting to censor his video since Arrowhead did not like some of his points that he made. And there's the evidence. These guys, this studio will drop you like a hot potato if you give them the slightest reason to do so. If you don't dance to their tune unquestionably and you don't lick their toes 24/7. Absolutely shameful and pathetic behavior from the team. Whoever it is that's responsible for that stuff, but how thin-skinned do you have to be to drop content creators over minuscule issues like that? Especially the Arrowhead issue is so childish. Arrowhead is absolutely riddled with these strange personalities and people. And no matter what you think, if you think this is relevant or not, it doesn't matter. It reflects badly on the overall studio, no matter how you turn it. It just reflects badly, this behavior. I don't care if it's not all of the devs or all of the moderators. The one mod or the one dev that does behave like that projects a negative image of the company to the outside and the community, and it does not inspire confidence in the studio, especially If you do a Glaze interview with the current game director while the game is burning, acting like everything's fine, talk about being tone deaf by the way. But then again, it is expected. I expected this, since I've witnessed this exact behavior since the release of the game. Hence why I started to stay away from engaging too much with this game. I got my like 200 hours in before things went to shit, and I'm happily sitting at the sidelines having some fun while the shitstorms are going on. And yes, it was expected. We already had plenty of evidence in the past. This is how the studio always has acted. The 60 days were an outlier, and since then, the new team lead has proven to fundamentally not understand why these 60 days happened in the first place and why the community was outraged to begin with. And so they navigated themselves into the next controversy, since that entire studio just refuses to take in criticism, no matter what the true reason is, whether it's due to insane echo chamber cultism or in-group bias or maybe just plain old ignorance to player feedback. The state of the game is where it is due to the track record Arrowhead as a studio has evidently proven time and time again. They never understood what they had when the game was first released, and had the community not rallied together, they, as an Arrowhead, would have killed their game then and there. It's just, if you are resistant to criticism and not perceptive to suggestion from your player base, it is inevitable that you will start killing your game again through negligence and persistent ignorance. And that is where we are now. Again, Helldivers is still glazing, woefully ignorant of the truth that the player numbers have been cratering for the past few months, and apparently the devs are also unaware of that fact, or maybe this was their goal to begin with. After all, they already tried to kill the game once. And to the glazers, I have this to say: have fun with your buggy mess of a game. Just you wait. Even the most ardent glazer is gonna change his tune real quick once he has to wait 3 minutes for a game to pop due to low population and all his MOs fail cause nobody plays the game anymore. Or maybe a good old hard lock and a fried SSD is what finally gets them on the path of enlightenment. I am convinced that this is what it's gonna take to get these guys off of spinning on Arrowhead crazy style. And to all the community members who are capable of critical thought, hey, I feel you. I know you tried so hard to keep this game together. It has to suck to see it floundering once again. But here's the thing. Keep it up. Maybe they managed to get another 60-day plan in there. Just keep in mind that what I laid out in this video, Arrowhead has a history of making absolutely stupid decisions and going against player sentiment. And who's to say, even if they recover from this state, maybe they then go ahead and try to kill the game a third time, who knows? Anyway, that's all from me. As someone looking in from the outside, seems to me all of this was very avoidable and yet so predictable at the same time. Oh well, let's see what hijinks Arrowhead is gonna get up to in the future. I'm all along for the ride, baby. See you next time.